In this video, what we're going to do is finish out the lobby. Basically, we got to create a couple more actions that we have to deal with, and then we have to hook up our buttons so that they disappear or appear appropriately based off of if we're logged in. So the way I'm going to start this is I'm going to jump into our source server shared actions folder or file, and I'm going to start working on some lobby actions. So there's not a whole lot that you can do inside of the lobby. So we're going to go ahead and just do that real fast. We'll also do a couple game actions too. So const export lobby send message equals lobby send message. Should be pretty straightforward. That's going to be when we send an actual message. Export const lobby send message equals message goes into type is lobby send message and message. Then we need to have an export const lobby join, which is lobby join, and we'll do an export const lobby join equals this accepts no parameters. It just has a type of lobby join. And that's it for what we can do in the lobby. So let's go ahead and actually put together a couple game actions as well. And the game actions that I want to put together first, for this part anyway, is const game create equals game create. Come on, you can do it. Export const game create equals type is game create. And we'll also have an export const game join equals game join, which will have an export const game join equals game ID goes into type is game join, followed by the game ID that we want to join. Now, before we move on to actually hooking these up into our store, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up validation, and I'm going to add a chat.js validation file, which will import the validator from index, export const message length limit equals, let's say, 50 characters, and then export function validate message, and we'll simply say if message length is greater than message length limit, then return validator dot fail, saying messages must, well, let's do a template string. Messages must be fewer than message length limit, char is long. Otherwise, return a validator dot succeed. All right, so that's our basic validator. So now we can move on to implementing our lobby store. And there's not a whole lot to do in it. Let's jump into our client stores lobby, but let's also jump into our components lobby. You'll see why I'm doing this in a moment. Let's move this over to the right-hand side. So we haven't yet talked about the concept of views, and I don't mean views as in the MVC sense of the word. The way that I'm architecting a lot of this, for a variety of reasons, which most of them we'll go over later, is that certain entities on the server side will have what's called a view. And that view is what's going to be passed into the client. And we're going to write a merging algorithm that will determine when the view changes on the server will send a diff of what changed to the client and handle that all automatically. So I don't have to write a separate action for, let's say, a message came in or a game got created. I can just have that all in the lobby view, and once we write the diffing algorithm, it will be properly kept up to sync with the server's idea of what's going on with minimal amount of bandwidth used. So what I'm going to do is at the top, I'm going to say const default view equals, and I'm going to say messages equals, and I'm going to copy over our messages from here because the view is going to replace the games and the messages. So I'm just going to copy that over or cut that over. And then I'm going to say games equals, and then games will also be an array that I move over. And that'll be our default view. So right now I'm leaving the lobby.js in an invalid state. There are errors here. But when we hook this up into the store, we'll fix those. We'll do that later in this video. So I'll close that out. And back into the lobby store, I'll start off with a constructor that takes out the dispatcher. And I'm going to say this view money equals, I'm just going to say, I don't know, observable of default view. And I'm going to have to import observable, of course, from RxJS. So I'll import observable from RxJS. And so this isn't going to change at all right now until we hook this up to the server. It's just going to stay static, but that's fine for our purposes, for testing, without a server anyway. Then I'm going to say dispatcher on request. And on the top request, the first request is going to be a lobby join. And this is just going to take in an action. And I'm not even going to make this multi-line. I'm just going to say dispatcher.succeed action. Then I'm going to do a lobby send message. And I'm going to say action goes into, and I'm going to validate it. So const validator equals, I have to import my validation, of course. So let's import a validate message from shared validation chat. We'll say validator equals validate message, passing in action.message. And, or whoops, actually, the way I'm going to do this is actually a little bit different, because I want to validate two things here. I'm going to import validate message from chat, but I'm also going to import the validator from shared, oops, not shard, shared validation, just index, so I don't need to provide the index. Say validator equals new validator. I want to first make sure the user is logged in. So I'm going to accept the second parameter of user. Remember, we weren't accepting that before, but it was always being passed in. Remember where we create our stores, our lobby store? We passed in the user, right? So I'm going to say validator equals new validator. I'm going to say if not user is logged in, then validator.push you must be logged in. Then I'm going to say validator.push validate message, action message. Remember, the push method can take in a sub-validator. Then I'm going to say if validator did fail, dispatcher.fail, action validator.message, return. Otherwise, I'm not going to to-do send to socket. I'm not going to do anything. For sending messages, I'm not going to bother with receipts, with success messages, because that would just take up a lot of bandwidth that is irrelevant. Then I'm going to create my op send message, which means I need to grab my map op method. So I'm going to say import map op money from shared observable. Then I'm going to scroll down. Then over here, I'm going to say this op send message money equals map op money, dispatcher on money, a lobby send message, followed by user details money dot map you goes into is logged in. So this way, we are synchronously checking to make verifying we are logged in. Although this probably isn't even strictly necessary, honestly, but whatever. We'll keep it in. And on the op send message, on our can property, will be determined whether the user details observable set is logged in to true. All right, next up, let's go ahead and jump into our game. So take one last look at this file. Let's jump into our game store and add the ops for joining and creating a game. So we will need our map op, and I'm not worrying about any sort of validation. That's going to be unnecessary. And we'll bring in our map op. And then for the game store, I will do a constructor. I will get the dispatcher, and then I'll also get the user, of course. And I'm going to say this dot op. Actually, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a intermediary observable because I'm going to be reusing this logic a lot. I'm going to say const is logged in money equals user details money map v or d goes into is logged in. Then I'm going to say this.op create game money equals map op, passing in the dispatcher.on money a.game create, followed by is logged in. So we can create the game if we're logged in. Then I'm going to do this.op join game money equals map op. But for this, I'm not going to pass in a can because you can always join a game whether you're logged in or not. So I'm just going to say dispatcher on money a.game join. And with that, this should be enough to finish our lobby component. So, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Jumping back in, we will go into our lobby, and we are going to go up to the top here, and I'm going to add a let's do our join game and send message first. So our join game is simply going to dispatch that request of joining a game. So this just needs to be a single liner. This dot request, remember to do this dot request because we're sending a request, a dot join game game.id. For send message, pretty much the same exact thing. We will say this dot request a dot send message, and we're going to pass in message. Or not send message, send lobby send message. Now we need to subscribe to our operations. So let's go ahead and write our component will mount method, and we'll extract out the stores for our lobby. And we'll say equals this dot context, and then we'll subscribe to this dot subscribe to lobby op send message money. And then op send message goes into this dot set state op send message. Remember again that you want to pass this in as an object with the key and the property of op send message. And this shorthand will do that. If you just did this, you would have a very, very bad time. Anyway, next up, we want to subscribe to the lobby view because we want to get a list of all the messages as well as all the games. So we're going to do lobby.viewMoney. Lobby goes into this set state lobby. So the property that we will use in our state to get into the lobby is called just lobby. And now we can hook all this up. We can delete these old values that we used to use for testing. I can say const lobby colon games messages, comma op send message equals this dot state. And if we wanted to go test it, let's get out of full screen mode. We can come over here, refresh. And now when we click join a game, we get a.joinGame is not a function. Lobby.js, what did I do wrong? Oh, it's game join, not join game. Game join. I am stupid. Ugh. I'm bad at typos today, I'm sorry. Okay, so now if we try to join a game, we get the game join action being dispatched. If we try to create the game, we get to do create game because we haven't worked on the sidebar yet. If we try to chat, it says please log into chat. So if we click login and actually log in, it now says enter a message. So now we can send that in. There was one thing I noticed about the login screen that I want to fix, but we'll fix that at the end of this video. Now let's do our sidebar. So our sidebar is going to be very, very similar. So let's scroll down to our lobby sidebar. And you know what? I want this to be a single line of code. Let's start with our create game. What is our create game going to do? This.dispatch a.game create, or sorry, capital A, game create, and that's it. It doesn't need any parameters. Then I need to, on component will mount, I need to say const stores goes into, and we need to grab the user in the game store. So user game equals this context, and then we will subscribe to user.oplogin money. Oplogin goes into this.setState oplogin. Then we do this.subscribe game.op create game money. Op create game goes into this set state op create game. So now we are subscribed to both of these. And so what I'm going to do here is let's go ahead and full screen this guy. For my render function, I'm going to remove these variables and I'm going to replace them with const op login and op create game equals this dot state. Then, instead of can login, it's simply if not oplogin.can. Instead of can create game, it's not op create game.can. Instead of create game in progress, it's op create game.in progress. And that's the sidebar. So all we need to do is keep track of if we're logged in or not and what's the result of creating a game. Now, you definitely could throw in some additional stuff, like maybe you want to display an error if the game creation was unsuccessful. You might want to do the same thing with joining the game on the lobby container. But I'm not going to worry about that because that's something you guys can extrapolate for how we dealt with the login dialog. Just check for an error, and if it exists, print it out. I'm not going to be doing much error checking because it's redundant. But with that, we should be able to reload and have a working lobby. More or less a working lobby. Obviously, we still have fake data, but that's okay. Oh, I want to fix the login dialog real fast. I'm going to go into the login dialog, and then on component did mount on the login dialog. So after it was rendered, this is important, component did mount, that is after the render. If we did what I'm about to do in will mount, we would get a error. And that's because what I want to do is say this underscore username dot input dot focus. So in order to access this dot username, this ref right here, we need to wait for it to render first. And that's what the did mount event does. But let's go ahead and check this out. If we hit login, it's properly focused. Obviously invalid username. And if we log in and hit enter, now there's no more login button because we can no longer log in, but there is a create game button. And if I hit game create, that's not a request. We should fix that. So in the lobby, in the sidebar on the create game, we need to make sure that we're sending a request, not a dispatch, because we're actually wanting to add the status request to this action. But now with the refresh, this should work. If we log in, and then if we hit create game, now it's blue. And that indicates that it's blue because it indicates that's a request. Also, the create game button is grayed out. That's because it's now in progress, because there has been no fail or success yet, which it's fine because we're not handling it. But that's really cool because it prevents people from double clicking on it and creating multiple games. But with that, I think that's the end of this video. That's pretty much the end of the lobby. There's a little tiny thing we need to do later, but that's about it.